Look at another one. Let's evaluate a negative 1/4. Subtract 3 times 3 minus 5 to the negative 3 power. According to the rule for the order of operations, I work inside symbols of inclusion first. So first I do the 3 minus 5. I copy everything else down exactly the same. And all I've done here is recopy the problem. So negative 1/4, subtract 3 times 3 minus 5 to negative 3 is equal to a negative 1/4 minus 3. Now I'm doing what's inside symbols of inclusion. 3 subtract 5 is negative 2. You always work inside symbols of inclusion first. And then I bring down the negative 3. I copy everything else exactly the same. I'm left with subtraction, multiplication, and exponents. Which do I do first? Subtraction, multiplication, or exponents? Well, according to the rule for the order of operations, I do the exponents next. So I'm going to do negative 2 to the negative 3. Well, negative 2 to the negative 3 is the same as 1 over negative 2 cubed, which is the same as 1 over negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which is the same as 1 over negative 8 or negative 1 over 8, because a positive divided by negative is negative. So I'm going to bring down the negative 1/8 and put it in. Bring down the negative 1/4, stays the same. Bring down the subtraction, the 3, but I do my exponentiation. Negative 2 to the negative 3 is a negative 1/8. I'm now left with subtraction and multiplication. That's negative 1/4, subtract 3 times negative 1/8. Now really, remember, this is the same as plus a negative 3. So I'm going to do my multiplication now, and I would have a negative 1/4 plus a positive 3/8. A negative 3 times a negative 1/8, the negative times negative would be a positive. So I have a negative 1/4 plus 3/8. Now I need to find the common denominator. The common denominator between 4 and 8 is 8. 4 goes into 8 2 times. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. 8 goes into 8 1 time. 1 times 3 is 3. And now I have a common denominator, so I keep the denominator 8, add the numerators. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. So my answer is 1/8. Now I'm going to give you some more exercises. Be sure that you copy down the exercises as I read them. Evaluate. 1/2 plus 3 times 3/2 to the negative 2. 4 times 2 to the 0 power. Subtract the quantity 3 times 5 to the 0 power. 4 subtract 1 quantity to the negative 3 times 2 to the 4th. Once you've copied down the problems, stop the tape, work the problems, and then restart the tape to check your answers. Now I'm going to give you the answers. Compare your answers with my answers. If you disagree, be sure to check with someone. Now I'm going to give you a little note that will save you much time later on. You already know that you already know that x to the negative a is 1 over x to the positive a. It's also true that 1 over x to the negative a is equal to x to the positive a over 1. In other words, the negative exponent tells you to take the reciprocal. Well, let's do a proof of this one. We have 1 over x to the opposite of a. Well, x to the opposite of a tells me to do the reciprocal. So I'd have 1 over x to the a. This bar means to divide. To divide means to invert and multiply. So I would have 1 times x to the a over 1. If I invert 1 over x to the a, I have x to the a over 1. And now if I multiply, I get x to the a. So 1 over x to the opposite of a is equal to x to the a. If you have a negative exponent in the denominator, then if you move the base to the numerator, the exponent becomes positive. So I'll say that one more time. You may want to write it down if you do not understand it symbolically. A negative exponent in the denominator tells you to move the base to the numerator and the exponent will become positive. Let's look at a couple examples. Let's evaluate 2 to the 4th divided by 3 to the negative 2. I have a negative exponent in the denominator. So the negative exponent tells me to take the reciprocal, which means I move the base to the numerator and the exponent will become positive. So 2 to the 4th divided by 3 to the negative 2 is the same as 2 to the 4th times 3 squared. And so if I take it to the numerator, the exponent becomes positive. Now I'll easily finish it. 2 to the 4th is 16 because it means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 16. 3 squared is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. Pull out your calculator and multiply 16 times 9 to get 144. Sometimes you have several powers. Let's look at 2 squared times 3 to the negative 1 divided by 5 times 7 to the negative 2. Well, let's analyze it. 2 has a positive exponent, so it stays put. 3 has a negative exponent, so the negative exponent says take the reciprocal. So if it's in the numerator, it tells me to move it to the denominator. So 3 to the negative 1 in the numerator becomes 3 to the positive 1 in the denominator, because I take the reciprocal. 5 already has a positive exponent, understood to be 1. So I leave the 5. But 7 has a negative exponent. I have a negative exponent in the denominator, then I move the base to the numerator and the exponent becomes positive. Now all my exponents are positive, and I can proceed easily now. 2 squared is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. 7 squared is 49. 7 times 7 is 49. 7 squared means you use 7's factor 2 times. 5 to the first is 5. 3 to the first is 3. Now multiplying the numerators, I get 196. Multiplying the denominators, I get 15. So the answer is 196/15. This completes tape 101. Remember, if you do not understand anything, be sure to rewind the tape and listen to it again, or get help. The material covered in today's lesson will be expanded in tomorrow's lesson. That's always true in math. Anytime you run into something that you not completely understand, be sure to get help before continuing.